channel and welcome to today's video. We will be announcing the winner of the prize giveaway at the end of the video. Today's video will mostly be about, as promised, the tutorial on German helmets and the timeline and progress of how the German helmet was developed. We've been asked to do this by some new collectors. They want a very basic guide into how to spot or identify the changes and the development of the helmet from the First World War through to the Second World War. So we don't have all of the helmets here, so I will have to refer to some books for a couple of helmets. And again, apologies to any advanced collectors. This is really basic stuff, but this is what we've been asked to do, and we find it people are finding it really helpful. So I'll go straight into the tutorial. The first helmet introduced was in 1916, which was known as the square dip. I don't have the actual helmet here, so I'm showing you one out of a book. Now this is a book by an author called Michael Baldwin, who was one of the world's most advanced First World War collectors. The square dip helmet, it can be identified by having a very square shaped curl to the rim of the helmet. As you can see in the pictures, it's quite a unique shape. The other unique way of spotting this helmet is if you turn back the liner pads on the inside of the liner pad will always be in leather rather than in cotton, as you'll see on a later helmet. The untrained eye looks like a 1916 helmet, or what's known as the M16, but we refer to this as the square dip. The next model of helmet released was another what's known as pre-mass production helmet, which people refer to as the SH60. Now, I've got one of those here. You can see it's again a very strange or short shape to the curl. So it's not the long bend in the brim which we are familiar with M16s. It's quite a unique shape. If you look at it, you can see differences to what you'd normally see in an M16 helmet. This one here has a shooting star insignia on the front, which we think might be either a stormtrooper insignia or a Freikorps insignia. We still haven't been able to identify it, so any help on that would be grateful. So the next helmet after the pre-mass production helmets is the standard M16 helmet. As you can see, first thing to point out is the shape of the skirt is now slightly shallower. It's much smoother, not like the sharp version of the square dip. Has the same lugs as normal. People often wonder what they're for. I should explain that in a minute. Has a rivet here on the side that holds the chin strap, the leather chin strap in place. Inside still has the leather liner band. So as you'll see on this model, this explains what the lugs are for. This has a armoured brow plate on it. Now this was introduced for snipers peering their head over the trenches, and as you can see here, the brow plate fits onto those lugs, and it's designed to stop shrapnel or bullets going through to the head. Wasn't really that effective. It was used, but the weight of the brow plate on the helmet used to slide the helmet forward, so it ended up being not too popular. The next helmet after the M16 was the M17. So we say M17, we mean model 17, model 1917. Looks basically the same as an M16, no difference on the outside. But when you turn it inside, there's quite a few changes. Now, the lugs are still there for the chin straps. The liner band inside now is not leather anymore, it's now a metal liner band. The leather liner pads are still the same. You can see on the inside of this one, material holding the pads inside is cotton, as you would only see on the square dip. The only one that has the leather on the inside is the very first model square dip helmet. So the important development for most people is the change in the liner band. It's a metal liner band. Other than that, it's basically the same as an M16. Then comes the M18, model 1918. Again, to an untrained eye, it looks very similar. The shape of the skirt is still the same, the lugs are still there. But on this model, you'll notice that there's no small rivet here, because inside the chin strap system has changed. Liner band is still the same, it's still metal, liner pads are still the same, but the chin strap is now held on by two loops And it's quite a complicated liner system. It has a little clip. They're usually dated here on the back. So it's a two-piece strap held together by this small clip. After the Model 18, there was a helmet introduced called, as collectors, most of us call it the ear cutout. Some people call it a cavalry helmet. It wasn't really cavalry. I don't have a model of that helmet here, but for the beginner, we refer to it as the Model 1918 ear cutout. And as you can see from the one again in Michael Baldwin's book, Felds of 1918, some people say that they were wearing headphones with them, so they had to cut out the earpieces. Some people say they were used by cavalry, but the real truth is that a lot of people were finding it hard to hear with the skirts of the helmet coming right over their ears, so they experimented by introducing a helmet with the earpieces cut out, so the line of the helmet rose above the ear. As you can see in the book here, a really nice example, and also a camouflage example. I'm not going into camouflage too much of the First World War in this tutorial, because it's quite it's another thing to take in. I'm trying to keep it as basic as I can. But that is the Model 1918 ear cutout. After that, it was the end of the First World War and the Second World War was starting, and we have a helmet what's known as the transitional. So it basically looks like an M16, M17 or an M18 as this is, but it carries the Army decal. So this is the first time you see the decal used, and these are known as transitional helmets. So when the Second World War started, they brought out a helmet which is now known to collectors as the Model 1935 helmet, and it was the first real big changes to the development of the helmet. As you can see on this example, they were always painted in apple green, the Army versions. I'm not going to go into the Luftwaffe versions, just the Army versions for now. Always painted in a strong apple green. They always had two decals on them. One is the national decal, the other one is the Army decal. But the most important thing in terms of identifying the differences in World War II helmets could be done by looking at these air vents. So on the Model 1935 helmet, if the air vent looks like it's constructed in two separate pieces, it's the early model. Inside, you look at the liner, it looks like a standard World War II liner. The chin strap loops will usually be square edged, quite a sharp square edge. M35 helmet, usually a double decal, usually apple green, a two-piece air vent and square edge chin strap loops. After the Model 35 came the Model 1940. They dropped the national decal, that was removed. All Model 1940s only had one decal, which would be the Army decal on one side. The most important change was again on the air vent, so it stopped being a two-piece air vent and became one moulded piece. And inside, as you can see on this example, the chin strap retaining loops are a rounded edge, not the sharp square edge. After the 1940 came the Model 1942. Now I don't have a basic single decal M42 here at the moment, so I can only show you a camouflage version I have. It would normally have the Army decal on this side, no decal on that side, because we're getting towards the end of the war now, they're really cutting back. The air vent stays the same as the Model 1940, the moulded, one-piece moulded air vent, but the biggest development here is the change in the edge of the helmet. So if you look at an M40 or an M35, you will see they have a rounded edge, or what's called a rolled edge. It's smooth to rub your fingers across it. On the 1942 model, the later war model, they were cutting corners more and they made it a sharp edge. So we call it a raw edge helmet. And that is the best way to spot a 1942 helmet, raw edge. So just rub your fingers around the edge and you'll feel a sharp edge. As I said, I don't have a single decal version, I only have a camouflage version, which leads me on to camouflage helmets. Now I'm just going to show a few here of the camouflage helmets that I have in stock, but studying camouflage is a whole different science and it's quite in depth. My advice to you, for if you want to look at helmets with nets or with chicken wire or camouflage, you're best off buying Tarnfarben Volume 2. Tarnfarben Volume 1 is now out of stock, but you can still get a lot of information from Tarnfarben Volume 2. It's basically all about camouflage, and with that there's lots of helmets with chicken wire and nets on it as well. It's done by Oliver Locke. I published it. It was a really successful book. And the other thing, another good book I wanted to recommend was this one, German Combat Helmets, 1933 to 1945. It doesn't cover the First World War, but it does cover World War II, and we use it a lot when we're doing descriptions. It's a really good book. It's published by Bender Publishing by Ken Narowitz. Really good book, really useful. So my next video will possibly be in 2 weeks' time. I'm going to a show soon in Cine in Belgium. I'm also visiting the National Army Museum in Brussels, and my favourite museum, which is called Ardennes 44 in Belgium. It's a museum run by my friend Matthew Stephans, who collects World War II equipment, and it's possibly the best museum that I've ever been to for that subject. So hopefully I'll do some video shots from the museum, give you an idea on what it's like, and give you some details on how to get there. Lastly, the winner of our prize draw. So pleased to announce the winner was a Dutch collector called Maurice Nettinbryers, and he probably watches the video, so if you can get in touch, and we will get your items off to you as soon as possible. So congratulations on that. Keep watching the video. Update will be, as always, Friday around 2 o'clock UK time. Don't forget, like the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and we'll be back soon for another video.